Next up, and last but certainly not least on our member profile segment on the Chamber Report, we have Christian Lizaola. He is with CorTrust Bank in Anoka. CorTrust has been a member of the Chamber for a long time, an incredible Chamber supporter, an incredible community supporter, and a bank that you should be doing business with, especially from a commercial standpoint. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Christian, welcome to the show and welcome to the Chamber. You and I had a chance to meet, and you have moved up here, so you're starting to get a lay of the land. What do you think of the area?
I think it's a great area. It's close to a lot of things. Commute's not too bad, and so it's just getting acclimated with the business owners that are in the area. I've got a nice downtown here. It's reminiscent of where I kind of grew up, so happy to be here.
Yeah, and happy to have you here. So tell everybody out there a little bit more about yourself and also about CorTrust Bank Anoka.
Well, I currently live in Eden Prairie with my wife. We just welcomed our first son.
Congrats.
So 3 months old. It's his second day at daycare today, and so
a big day in the life of parents who are looking for a break.
Exactly. So we had a couple of 3 rescue dogs at home as well, and so that was one thing that we're both passionate about. And a little bit about myself. I've been working in banking for the last 10 plus years now in the commercial realm field, and that's something I've been pretty passionate about. You get connected with all different types of people in the communities, and so currently with CorTrust in Anoka, and that so far been here a couple of months, but things have been trending in the right direction and meeting a lot of good people.
So Christian, what do you think makes a good commercial banker?
I think it's a lot of different things that go into it. You want somebody who's knowledgeable first and foremost, reliable, accessible, somebody who's adaptable into different things. Not every single request is a vanilla type of request that comes in. I think every day is different. You meet, like I said, all different people from different walks of life. But you want to have somebody who's relatable in that field when you're entrusting an institution and also an individual with a money component. I think that's one thing that's often overlooked with business owners and people who are starting in investments as well too, is it's an important piece to it. And so business owners and people that are thinking about starting a business, they're very good at what they do, but there's a lot more components that go into it. And so having a reliable and accessible and knowledgeable banker is huge in the long run.
Really the key is your job's to listen and then react to the needs of that person.
Yes, and I always joke with people that my role is kind of, and anyone that's in the commercial banking role is kind of a storyteller at the end of the day. You're meeting with people who may be using your institution for a loan request or whatever it may be, deposits, CDs, and you're listening to what their story is, because eventually in my role you have to go and paint that picture for other people, our credit department and those who may be approving that deal. And so it's important that when you're working with a commercial banker and lender that they're taking diligent notes, because at the end of the day your story is going to be told by that person.
Exactly. So, Christian, these are interesting times that we're dealing with as people talk about rates and people talking about tariffs. I mean, you cannot get away from it for a minute. And so I know that in talking to a lot of our members, man, they're a little on edge. They're a little take a step back going, watching what's happening. So what is the impact that you're seeing with the current rate climate and with all the talks of the tariffs in the news, and what are you seeing with impacts to small business especially?
I think both of those, while different, they can kind of play a similar part. In regards to how rates are trending, I think unfortunately the days of those lower 3 to 4% rates on commercial and also mortgages as well, if it ever gets back to that point, it's going to take a little while. We saw a significant increase the last couple of years, and I think one of the impacts that that's had for small businesses and also investors as well You tend to notice it more with office buildings. They see the impact of, maybe they had a loan written in 2020 that was, that 3% rate, and then all of a sudden, they need to refinance that property. Maybe they lose a tenant or two in the equation, and now they're seeing, 7 or 8% rate, and that's going to significantly impact the bottom line if they can even, maintain a project like that.
Right.
And so that's one of the impacts that we've seen with the rate increases, and just, taking a more conservative approach. Banks in general as a whole have done that in regards to the rate climate. And as far as how tariffs have gone and all the talks with that, talking with a couple of business owners, I've seen I wanted to highlight one example of a friend of mine who has a production company as well, and they do big corporate events and big lighting, that whole deal. He had talked about, some of the importing a lot of their equipment that they have coming in, and they have pretty sizable goals for what they'd like to achieve for the next couple of years. And I think one of the things that smart business owners have done is they've kind of already put that in their budget. They've already thought ahead a little bit about what the impact of the change could be, in the Oval Office, and what that, means for business owners, but also now that the tariffs are kind of at the forefront, well, how is that impacting how, their products are received? And one of the things that they've done is, they've kind of looked at what they have, and, it's still full steam ahead. At the end of the day, it's not, there are some costs that go to consumers,
Right.
but we're not seeing significant changes quite yet in what that is, in the whole, I guess, overall what that should be with the, how the, what the idea is of the tariff talk is
Right.
that eventually, we're in a more stable and better environment there.
What I would tell you is make sure your seatbelt on your roller coaster is secured and tight, because it's going to be this stuff. Stuff changes just by discussions that are held on a national level. Hang tight, breathe in, breathe out. Christian and the crew at CorTrust Bank, they're watching everything. They can help stabilize it in the sense of, look, let's just take a breath, and we are all going to kind of watch and see what happens, and just plan for the future, because the future is going to come. The business is not going to just stop in this country or in this world. It will continue to move forward, and that's where you can have somebody trusted like Christian and the crew at CorTrust Bank to help you through just some of those turbulent times. And guess what? They will get you through it, and you will get through it, and we all will get through it. All right, Christian, so when it comes to someone who's thinking about starting a business, and I love this part the best, there is nothing like that enthusiasm of that first-time business owner or somebody who's purchasing their first commercial property. What advice would you give them?
Well, I'm going to relate it to becoming a new father. It takes a village at the end of the day. You have people who have really good ideas and maybe a good business plan that they put together, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle that make that work. And so, I think, a bank or a commercial lender is a small component of that, but it's a significant component to it. And so, when you're thinking about starting a business, you're thinking, man, I got to have somebody manage my books. You got to have a good bookkeeper, a good CPA, a good accountant, depending on the size of what you'd like to have your business to. And then all of a sudden you're, well, hey, I need some capital to get going as well too. And so my advice for somebody starting off in business or thinking about creating a business is just knowing that you're not on your own there. You got to have a good team in place, being able to relay your ideas, and whatever capacity that is, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. I tell people this all the time. Business is like a 500-piece puzzle. Lots of different pieces to that puzzle. CorTrust Bank Anoka is one of those pieces. Getting an accountant is another piece. And that's where the crew at CorTrust Bank can help you navigate through these things. It ain't their first rodeo. They know what they're doing, and they are there to help you. So, Christian, I bet you've got some great stories, some rewarding things, but what, in your mind, is the most rewarding thing about being a a community banker and a commercial banker?
You get to meet people, all like I said before, all different walks of life, and no 2 days are alike. You know, I might be walking, and I think the coolest thing is you learn about things you would have never had exposure to in whatever capacity. Because you know, I'm not personally passionate enough. I did not start my own business, so I don't know what that's like. But when you meet somebody who's passionate, whether it's a restaurant owner, a food truck, somebody who's in the hotel business, hospitality, whatever realm that they're in, you know, you just get all different types of insight to people who are passionate enough to take that risk, to take that step. And that's the cool part about banking, and what CorTrust allows is, you know, that involvement and just being a resource for the community and the communities that we're in Minnesota. You know, CorTrust has 15 locations here. So about anywhere where you go in Minnesota, you're bound to run into one.
You know, and one thing too is this isn't, all right, somebody out there is interested in opening up a business, and you reach out to Christian and you start that connection, you start that process. Once, let's just say it works and you get that loan, that's not where the relationship ends. We're talking about you're there from step A until as far as this thing goes, it is an ongoing relationship.
Absolutely, and that relates back to the question that you had asked about what makes a good commercial banker. It's not just, all right, Pete, it's not a conveyor belt, transactional type relationship. I mean, you want somebody that's a full service, that's able to make constant points of contact with you throughout the process, answering questions, and like I said, just being a resource at the end of the day when people need it. So
You bet. All right, Christian, we got some folks out there that are going, I got to talk to this guy. I got questions that need answers. How do they do that?
Well, a couple different ways. You can get a hold of myself personally through our website, CorTrustBank.com. You know, I'm not going to sit here and spell my last name for you. Just remember my name's Christian with CorTrust. I'd say my phone usually glued to my hip, not for this TV segment though. Right. 507-202-8746 is my personal number, and it connects to everything I have with work. So that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, and that's what you want from a banker anyway.
Great.
So.
And then, of course, on the Chamber website, we have CorTrust Bank information you can call there. He is Christian Lizaola. He is with CorTrust Bank Anoka. Hey, man, welcome to the area. Welcome to CorTrust Bank Anoka. We're happy that you're here, and let's get out there and have some fun and get some new businesses rocking.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
All right. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a peek ahead and recap what we've done here, plus what is coming up. We'll do all of that coming up right after this.